49 hours and 32 minutes. That's how long the game was unplayable. Let's talk about how the Goblin Machine did this and why Supercell even did this in the first place. So, the June 30 update for Season 60 released Goblin Barrel Evolution. Cool, but it also prepared for something new to come in later. They teased this as 4 new arenas, which led me and many others to believe that we're getting 4 new Trophy Road arenas, which would make 11,000 trophies total. But instead, they hinted at a completely new ladder, which would come on in June 17th, with the new Goblin Queen, cards, Tower, and King Tower troop. This was going to be a huge update. June 17th, the 3 Goblin cards released. The Goblin Curse was a spell that had 50% damage amplification. When anything died inside the radius, it turned into a Goblin. The Goblin Demolisher throws dynamite like the Bomber, but at half health runs fast and explodes on death. And the Goblin Machine, which is a moving tank that launched rockets from his back for 5 elixir. Now, this video is about the Goblin Machine, but I'd like to point out how all 3 of these cards were broken on release, and all 3 were nerfed shortly after. Releasing 3 cards on one day was something we hadn't seen for years. So, the Goblin Machine. How it works is that it is a tank that does melee damage. The Goblin Machine's HP is 2,598, for 5 elixir by the way. The damage is 135 HP, which is similar to a Barbarian. Not remarkable. The rocket it spawns every few seconds is 101 HP shorter than a Fireball, and it has the same range as an Archer, for 5 elixir by the way. And it targets air and ground troops, for 5 elixir by the way. So, it's broken. We've established that. You had gameplay like this, and it was pretty stupid. But how broken was it, really? Well, I have first-hand experience on dealing with the on-release version of this card, and it's not good. I've made the mistake of hosting a Pass Royale tournament shortly after the release of the Goblin Machine. I never really knew the full scale of its power, so I went through with it. I knew that the card was broken. Nearly everyone was panicking about it, but I thought that it couldn't be that bad. Little Prince just came off for being the most broken champion in history. Surely, they wouldn't do that again with the Goblin Machine. This is why I never hosted another Pass Royale tourney again. The cards are sometimes way too broken, and this is one of those cases. Goblin Machine served many purposes. He was supposed to be an expensive support unit, but because of his outrageous stats, he ended up being the tank that you needed to support. With his rocket doing insane damage though, he could counter air cards like minions, bats, dragons, anything really. He can still do this, but the damage he does is much less. Goblin Machine also did something that should already tell you it's a broken card. It gave a huge boost to the elixir pump and mirror. Mirror especially is terrible right now, but paired with extremely broken cards, it becomes unbeatable and very polarized. People were doing anything to keep as many Goblin Machines on the tower as possible. And another thing, he was practically unkillable. Usually when someone places a card like Goblin Machine in the back, you'd want to pressure the opposite lane and do damage to the tower, but that was the point. Every machine player would use Mirror and stack Goblin Machines until they 3-crowned you, and they used Rage to make this process faster, and most importantly, to beat you. The big thing pushing this card forward was the rocket. Without the rocket, the Goblin Machine would have actually been underwhelming. That's why 2 days later, on June 19th, 2024, they finally addressed it. They launched an emergency nerf that took down the rocket damage by 34%, took the rocket crown tower damage by 67%, and the rocket attack frequency down 13%. As you can see, they completely focused on the main issue, the rocket on the Goblin Machine, and it hit hard. The card was still very good. People called other people boosted for using it in ranked, and the rest of the June season was riddled with the Goblin Machine, but it hurt less than usual because people used it mostly on the Goblin Queen's journey, which unlocked the card. But there's something incredibly messed up about the release of the Goblin Machine that is starkly different from other broken releases, and we'll talk about it right after talking about these balance changes. July 2nd, they took the HP down 15%, which is massive for any card in the game, and it took 150% longer for the first melee attack to hit. This is actually a pretty quick recovery from a broken release than usual. It only took the length of a season to finally balance it properly. Clearly, it was enough because the very next season, on August 6th, they rebuffed the Goblin Machine, but they were more careful about it this time. There have been instances in the past where a rebuff made the card broken again. The only thing they did was make the now nerfed rocket shoot 14% faster. This is pretty small, especially considering the Goblin Machine wasn't near as broken now compared to emergency nerfs in July. October 8th, they were again moving slowly to balance things out. HP of the machine was increased by 5%. Around this time, you would see a machine occasionally paired with other broken releases like Goblinstein, but the card alone was arguably in its most balanced position. And by the way guys, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are dangerously close to 10,000 subscribers and beyond. So if you want to join this journey, make sure you like and subscribe, and thank you. January 8th, 2025 though is where Supercell made a little bit of a mistake. They buffed the machine again. Melee damage was up 57%, but attack time was now 1.2 instead of 0.9 seconds. This pushed the Goblin Machine just over the edge. And besides the interaction change with Rune Giant that season, nothing else had been done to the machine for 9 months, and this gave us a big problem during that time. Goblin Machine was in a lot of meta warrior decks. You know, the decks that people play to get free wins in Ultimate Champion. The decks that everyone complains about. Goblin Machine was almost always there. The problem is the card was annoying, but it was just below the threshold where Supercell usually nerfs cards. It was broken, but not broken enough for them to care. That was until the October season of 2025, where they nerfed the Goblin Machine again. Now I'm reading this as the balance changes came out about 4 hours ago, and they're still work in progress, but the rocket damage is down 22% and the HP is down 7%. Now there's a 99% chance that the Goblin Machine will be sterile after this, but it's nice to see that they finally paid attention to this broken card. Back to what I said about how the release of the Goblin Machine was messed up. On its release date, June 17th, they released both Goblin Machine and the Goblin Queen's Journey. You can unlock the machine for free if you pushed in the journey, but that wasn't very easy since it was like pushing 2,000 trophies for one card, and they nerfed it in 2 days. 2,000 trophies in 2 days is difficult, especially with broken overleveled cards guaranteed to be in your way. Or, once you got to the scrapyard on the journey, you could pay $40 for a maxed out machine, and they emergency nerfed it 48 hours later. Now this doesn't sound too different from the usual pay-to-win status of the game, but if you think about it, not only do you have to be pay-to-win to abuse this card, but you also have to push 2,000 trophies in 2 days. Neither casual nor free-to-play players would do that, so they were essentially shut out from winning any Goblin Machine matches, which were everywhere by the way, but the pushers and spenders could go back to normal trophy road and ranked games and use the cards there. This created a huge imbalance that was much worse than normal card releases, and now there was an even more exclusive group of people who used an even more broken card in an even more imbalanced meta. Now why would Supercell do this? Well, why wouldn't they really? The meta was terrible in general, and Goblinstein came a few months after, and that was broken. The summer update was just not good in general. I think it was just a result of Supercell's last real attempt at properly squeezing money from their most loyal players. Then, there must have been a meeting that led up to the October update that reworked Pass Royale to be better for free-to-play. They knew that something was wrong. Then again, Supercell continues to do this, with a Vine spell in 2025 and new evolutions coming out. So my conclusion is that Supercell wants to generate a profit, which is very unacceptable. This led the machine to be probably the most broken non-champion card in Clash Royale's recent history. And while they did quickly nerf it to tame the card, those 48 hours were constant losses, and of course, they did it again 3 months later. And by the way, guys, if you're enjoying this video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. We are dangerously close to 10,000 subscribers and beyond. So if you want to join this journey, make sure you like and subscribe, and thank you.